Disruptive may be just another overused buzzword, but disruptions in business like network downtime, data loss, social media abuse, and limited bandwidth are downright disruptive. For businesses large or small, Barracuda Networks offers powerful, affordable, yet easy to implement content security, application delivery, and data protection solutions, all designed to prevent disruptions and simplify IT. For an online demo or to try any of our security or storage solutions risk-free for 30 days, visit barracuda.com/disruptive.
ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
A lot of people complaining it's the dead time of the year. We've had a lot of fun last couple of weeks. Sometimes when you get football out and you can just talk about stuff, I'm not going to talk much about that dress thing. You know, my New Year's resolution was don't get too engaged with social media. It's kind of a waste of time. I really do. Like 2% of my audience or 4% are on Twitter. I'm not spending all day there. But there are some, there's some good messages and heartfelt messages. But last year, some people get too worked up on the stuff. And yesterday, so this morning I get up and I check news services and stuff. Apparently, a dress and llamas dominated Twitter yesterday. If that doesn't signify you should probably scale back a little from your social media use, that people spent hours apparently on llamas in Phoenix and a dress that changes colors. I looked at the dress. I don't know. I see blue and black. I don't know what everybody else is seeing, but apparently my eyes are screwing with me. Some wear glasses, some don't. Some have near vision. I don't know. I see blue and black. So anyway, sometimes you'll hear people say this, like I'm guilty of it. I guess we're all guilty of it. Whenever we're hurt, whenever we get our feelings hurt, we say stuff like, I don't care what people think of me. I don't care. We try to convince people, like, I don't care what people think of me. Well, come on. We all care what everybody, we don't care what everybody thinks about us, but everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be embraced by at least important people in their life. You kind of try to convince yourself sometimes, I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I don't care what some people think of you. You want your dog to like you. You want your wife or girlfriend to like you. You want your parents to like you, right? You want your boss to sometimes like you. I find the same thing with LeBron. Everybody's trying so hard to prove he's not the best player by a mile in this league. It's pathetic. Kevin Durant wins an MVP. Derrick Rose wins an MVP. James Harden, quote, best player in the land, unquote. Oh, good hell, stop it. LeBron's so far and away the best player in the league, you should give him Executive of the Year and the MVP. But after 12 years in the league, there's a certain understanding that, and this happened to Kobe, it happened to MJ, it happens to all the great players like Duncan, that you do realize after you've been in the league and you've won titles that your legacy is going to be elevated not by regular season games. It's going to be elevated by titles and plaques and rings and banners. And so you take a half off, a quarter off. And by the way, 20-year-olds, Michael Jordan took quarters off. Michael Jordan took halves off. There were games that Michael Jordan, believe it or not, throttled down. I know you've watched YouTube, so you think you know his entire career. Michael Jordan had stretches, too, when he wasn't full throttle. And I think MJ, Kobe, the all-time great, certainly Shaq and LeBron, after Durant gets a title, you'll see more of it. You realize what is going to make you, how you're going to be judged when you're gone, when you're out of the game. And it's going to be titles, because that's the way it works in the NBA. By the way, I also thought it was funny they just smoked. LeBron was unbelievable, and they smoked the Warriors. Oh, my bad. The little Splash Brothers. The Splashy Brothers. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. The Splash Brothers. Hey, that's a cute little splash. Here's a little LeBron tsunami for the Splash Brothers.
Cavaliers shooting 40%. LeBron picks it away from Lee. Cruises the other way. Strolls to the glass. Just like that. LeBron James.
Yeah. The Splashy Brothers. The Splashy Brothers. How about a big splash? How about a big fat splash from LeBron?
Back to LeBron, wing right, working on Green with his back to the bucket. Gives him that right shoulder. Rocks him a little bit. Gets him off his position. From 10 feet. LeBron James has 42. Season high.
Yeah, a little tidal wave.
That was.
A little tidal wave in your face, little Splashy Brothers. Little splashy. Rub-a-dub-dub. 2 perimeter shooters in the tub. How about a big splashy? Splash Brothers. James, yeah, there's LeBron. Yeah, you guys go play with a little rubber ducky in the tub. Yeah. Pass the rubber ducky. Yeah. He shot 60%. You shot 33. You guys had 31 combined. He had 42. And give him exec of the year as well. That was fun last night. Gotta be honest with you. In that first half, oy. And that first half, LeBron was just, yikes, get out of the way. So we had a little controversy last night in sports. Vanderbilt coach Kevin Stallings, after the game, he really tore up one of his players verbally, Wade Baldwin. Wade Baldwin's one of his players, kind of cocky kid. And he was leaving the floor, and he kind of got in the face of an opponent, you know. And Kevin Stallings looked over and saw his player taunting an opposing player, and it got caught on tape. He was ticked off.
Armani, apologize. You don't do that. Kill you. Told you 100 times.
Yeah, he was upset. I'm going to kill you. But I got to tell you, I don't like the words, but it came from the right place. So passionate in a teaching moment, he lost his mind. And I don't like the words, but why people get angry does matter. Even in our court system, they see homicide as layered. Crime of passion, self-defense, manslaughter with intent, manslaughter without intent. As a head coach, you're angry over a loss, you're a bad sport. You're angry over sportsmanship, I get it. As a parent, you yell at your kid because they get a B+ on a test, you're a loser. But your son punches your daughter and you're angry, it's a different anger, it comes from a different place. So we all, as parents, my son's going to put his hand on a hot stove when he's 2, I scream. I scream at him because he spills grape juice on carpet, I need to get over it. In this instance, I don't like the words. I don't even love the action. But the place it came from, we don't taunt. Bad sportsmanship is wrong. We've had this discussion several times with the same player. For the record, the player after the game said, I got no problem. I love my coach. He's why I came here. So a lot of people are going to jump on the coach, and I don't love it either. But it comes from the right place, and where anger comes from and why it arrives does matter. And it can be different. All anger is not the same. I mean, not in this instance, why to me matters. Don't love it. Not a fan of it. Don't like the words. Heard brought to you by Regis. New way to work. Call 1-800-OFFICES. 1-800-OFFICES. Coaching's tough. Coaching young people, tougher. You know? Good stuff today. Yeah, the llamas in Phoenix, apparently, everybody was on Twitter being funny about that. Missed that. And then the dress thing, I don't even know who's wearing this thing. Is it a mannequin or is it a model? I can't even tell what it is. Apparently there's some dress out there, and some people, right-thinking people, see blue and black, and half the people see white and gold. You know, it is interesting, though, how you perceive things. When I used to live in Vegas, you know, you'd have fights, and you'd have 3 judges, and they'd each sit in a different side of the ring. And I can remember going, you know, most of the time they were pretty accurate, but I can remember going to a lot of fights, you know, a lot of them, and not 10%, probably closer to 40 or 50, where one judge would see a completely different fight. And, you know, I had talked to a judge once about that, and he said it depends on where you sit in the ring. If it's a left-handed fighter, he moves to a certain side of the ring. If it's a right-handed fighter, if they're both big swingers, he goes, sometimes over the course of a fight, you just don't get very good views. Just because of a guy's comfortable, he wants to be closer to his corner. There's a certain fighter, they have habits, they move back or forward toward a certain corner. So I asked a guy, he goes, you know, it's just sometimes you see the same thing differently based on your perspective. Are you closer, further away? What's the noise around you? I see blue and black on this. That's what I see. I'm a judge and I see blue and black. Apparently, Brian Windhorst was telling our guys he briefly saw white and gold. Okay, that took over the internet.
Colin Cowherd.
The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to love what a coach does, like the Vanderbilt coach. I don't love his language. And I'm not a big believer in anger, but we're human, and we all have anger. And where it came from, I understand what he gets upset with. He'd warned a player several times, and the player admits it. And the kid started getting in people's faces with, taunting Tennessee players, and it just drove the coach crazy. And I'm not saying I wish he would do it again, but, the way it works in the media is people looking for clicks and looking for attention. Fire, demand, fire, fire. It's not fireable. It's not fireable. It's you sit down with your athletic director, maybe impose a one-game suspension. Maybe you don't. But I'll defend the guy because in the end, I understand why he's getting angry. And to deny, there's nothing wrong with being authentic. I mean, Jim Harbaugh is kooky. Brian Kelly, who I've defended many times at Notre Dame, Brian Kelly's off the rails sometimes. But if you meet Brian Kelly, he's just an incredibly intense guy. You can't be in that teaching role in football, millions of dollars, job at stake. There's emotions. They're real people. And in this instance, I don't like it. Maybe they suspend him for a game. I don't think it rises to firing. I think we just live in, we live in such an overreactive kind of society now because of social media. Oh, my God. People went crazy yesterday in a dress and llamas. I mean, we got too much time on our hands. Peter, you're in the herd on ESPN Radio. Go ahead.
What's up, Colin? Love the show.
Thanks.
I was just going to say, as a recruiting tool, think about if you're a 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid watching them play last night. You bring up Brian Kelly and Jim Harbaugh. Those coaches win. Vanderbilt hasn't been much at all in college basketball, and I was just seeing what you think about if you're a high school kid watching that. I mean, all he was doing is showing some fire after the game. You don't know what was said during that game to those players. So.
Peter, bottom line is nobody was watching Vanderbilt, Tennessee, to be honest with you, so it's not a big recruiting tool game. And kids, a lot of coaches yell. High school coaches, junior high coaches yell. College coaches, NFL coaches yell. I don't think it's going to help or hurt recruiting. Now, if it's chronic, like who's the guy that's at Kansas State that's like just over the top? No, Bob Huggins is a little rough. But I'm talking Kansas State guy. Is it Martin? Frank Martin? Is it? He's not there anymore. The guy that was there, he was a little too intense for my taste. Like if I was a player watching that night in, night out, time in, every time out, he was over the top. That's kind of a turnoff. That's not who this coach is. That's not who this coach is. I mean, listen, Jim Moore is intense for UCLA. They just had their best recruiting class since he's been there. So we've seen more of his intensity. It's helped. Brian Kelly just had, to me, the last 2 years, Brian Kelly's Notre Dame classes have been his best two classes. We've seen more of his intensity. It doesn't hurt recruiting. Now, if it's who you are all the time, that coach at Kansas State, to me, he just couldn't shut it off. It was a little unnerving. Bobby Knight can't shut it off. Even now, he can't shut it off. That's different. But a guy has an outburst once in a while, but he's glib, gregarious. It doesn't bother me. Brian Kelly's very funny. He just once, twice a game, he goes nuts. He's intense. I don't think that hurts recruiting. I really don't. I really don't. And we overreact. It's, fire, fire. I've never once said somebody should be fired. Now, I did say in Brady Hoke's case, it's time he should go. I don't demand people should be fired. I said Wade Phillips in Dallas, it's time to go. I met Brady Hoke a week after I had said on the air, it's time to replace him. And we got along great because I didn't go out and demand he should be fired. I said, this is not working. It's a mess. Let's replace him. But we live in a demand to be fired society because that's how sports blogs get clicks. Outrageous. Gasoline. On the flames. Let's go crazy. Come on. You know how rarely a coach should be fired for an action like that? I mean, come on. This is that word he said last night is 1 second in 1 day. Really? You're going to ruin the whole resume because a word you don't like? Really? Andrew, you're in the herd. Go ahead.
Hey, yeah, they won the game. And when a coach does that, he kind of singles himself out. And I never like a coach of a program singling himself out, kind of trying to embarrass the kid. He recruited that kid. You know, that kid, I don't know how long he's been with him, but he kind of embarrassed the kid. And
the kid kind of embarrassed the university by taunting another player. I mean, that's you know, it's not like the kid is perfect. The kid acknowledges he's done it before. The program acknowledges he's done it before. So the kid puts himself above the program. You know what? If you don't ever want to be yelled at, don't go into athletics. I mean, seriously, we've gotten so PC on this stuff. If you don't want to be yelled at, don't go into sports. you're going to get yelled at. I mean, the best coach my kids have ever had was a barker. He is a barker. And sometimes my daughter would go, oh, gosh, I'm like, you're never going to have a coach that good. They won 4 straight town titles. I'm like, you don't have the talent. You didn't win them off talent, believe me. I mean, coaching, everybody's got different methods. I don't love anger. I don't love lashing out. I'm not saying here I'm an advocate of all of it, but people can be human. It's sports. It's raw. It's visceral. Football's violent. And you're asking guys to run through a wall, you're not going to be a poet at halftime. Guys bark. You know, Belichick barks. Harbaugh barks. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we all want authenticity, but if anybody shows you authenticity, we're all petrified of it. Again, don't love what he said, don't love the word. Kelly, a woman's calling. I always like when gals call because we don't get many female callers, and I love it. Kelly, go ahead.
Hi, Colin. I'm in the truck driving to school in Southern California with my 10-year-old son right now, and what I want to say is that these kids who are good athletes and are treated so special because they're great athletes, sometimes at home and sometimes also because they're so great, they don't get the good constructive feedback they need on how to behave. That coach did what he needed to do. This person has been told for so long how great they are, but yet they're not told this is what you have to do, though, to survive in this world. This is how we treat other people.
You know, Kelly, it's funny.
I just think that it's a great idea. He did it.
Well, you know, Kelly, it's interesting. I was talking to a coach the other day, a very, very prominent coach about recruiting, and he said, you know, what's happened to high school football recruiting is that it used to be that even if a kid was a great player, you didn't know who he was out of his hometown. Now he's on the cover of USA Today. Now he's announcing it on television. He goes, some of these kids come into our programs, and they're talking about the NFL. And he goes, we got to give them a little reality. It's almost like Army recruiting. Okay, time to get a haircut and be like everybody else. We really have had an elevation of notoriety for people who haven't proven anything. High school football players now hold press conferences to tell you where they're going to go to school. You got mad at LeBron for doing it when he was the best basketball player in the world. Kids now are like, I'm going to take my talents to Saratoga High School. I'm going to go and play at Purdue. Are you kidding me? You got mad at LeBron for doing it? So I think sometimes kids come into programs with an elevated sense of worth and value, and coaches need to say, time to get a haircut. Time to run the stairs. You're just like everybody else. Really good. That's why we offered you a scholarship. Tobias, you're in the herd. Go ahead.
Hey, man. Just real quick. I think the one thing that bothers me, and I'm an African-American, is he said, I'm going to effing kill you. And I remember when Serena Williams did that a few years back to a line judge or a judge, and she was just the angry black woman that should be thrown off the tour. And this is like, oh, it's just a teaching moment. That's what this was.
Well, was she thrown off the tour?
No, but I'm just saying the reaction now is, hey, it's not a big deal. He's a coach. I've never had a coach threaten to kill me, whether they were mad at me or not. And I love coaches that yelled at me.
Yeah, I think I may have. I had pretty intense high school coaches. I don't remember. I don't talk about tennis much, so I don't remember the Serena thing being the end of the world. I imagine my opinion on Serena would have been, it's a moment, it's heated, let's get over it. I mean, I was never bothered by the McEnroe stuff. It's sports. You know, it's just sports. Sports is intense. Sometimes it goes. My thing with coaches, don't touch players. Get your hands off people. But yelling and screaming, it's not perfect. It's not ideal. The stuff is said that you regret. I mean, I've said stuff I regret. You know, you just, they're words. They're words. Now, can you walk up to the president and say that? No. I mean, that word matters. I'm going to kill you, that sentence, it's not appropriate. And it's not. And I think if they handed him a short suspension, I'd be okay with that. I would absolutely be okay with that. He's not perfect either. I could live with a short suspension. But firing? Come on.
Want more of the herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
He's our guy, Brian Windhorst. Cavs last night destroyed Golden State, and he always gives us a good 5 minutes. All right, Brian, last time you and I talked, LeBron and his coach, David Blatt, about a month ago, not eye to eye, not getting along. Now the Cavs in the last 3 weeks, absolutely on fire. Incredible last night. What has changed?
Well, LeBron feels a lot better. And coming into this week, Colin, somebody who would know told me that LeBron wasn't really pleased that he was not in the MVP conversation. You know, he consumes media like anybody else. He may deny it, but he's very well aware And he was hearing people talk about how it's Curry, Harden, and maybe Russell Westbrook for the MVP, and that really bothered him. In LeBron's mind, Colin, he should have won the MVP the last 6 years. He felt like in 2011 when Derrick Rose won it, he had to pay a penance because of the decision. He felt like he was the best player that year. And then last year, he flat out said he thought he played well enough to win the MVP, but Durant was on a team that had more wins, so he understood why he won it. But in his mind, he should have won it the last 6 years. And he was really irritated that he was not involved in it, although for good reason he's not been involved in it. And so he came out last night, forget about the coach, forget about anything else. He came out on a mission, not just to win the game, but to send a message that he still feels like he's the best player in the league. You could see it in the way he approached the game. He was out shooting 2.5 hours early. He played so hard, Colin, that he had to request to come out of the game 5 minutes into the second, actually about 7 minutes into the third quarter, because he was exhausted. Not in a bad way, because he was playing so hard. And so it was LeBron really trying to send a message to his teammates, to the Warriors, to the whole league last night, that he is still very dangerous, and so are the Cavs.
Was it the biggest win of the year for the Cavs?
I think it is. Obviously, there's other points where they've had nice wins, and they've won 18 of 20. But there hasn't been many games this year, just because of all the injuries in the league, where you've seen, ones-on-ones, full strength on full strength. It doesn't happen very often. And last night, the Warriors had their whole team. The Cavs had their whole team. Everybody had a day off. Everybody had a chance to have their full practice time and shoot around and everything. It was real man-on-man. In the first half, both those teams were slugging at each other. And at the end, I feel like the Warriors just punched themselves out, and the Cavs were still standing. So it was a real good facsimile. You really can't say any game in February has any super meaning, but that game last night, especially because everybody was healthy and playing, was an elevated game, and LeBron really delivered in it.
Brian Windhorst, NBA insider of the Herd on ESPN Radio. I said it on Monday. When they got Kendrick Perkins, to me, they've got outside of point guard two of everything. J.R. Smith's in line. I really look at this team now, and I didn't until Kendrick Perkins, and I think they are, on any given night, the best team in the league. I really believe they're now going to win it. And I just think between all the moves, Kendrick Perkins the final piece. Do you feel that strongly?
I think they're a little susceptible at point guard. The thing about it is, Colin, they now have a little bit of a lopsided roster. They have 4 centers on their roster. One of them is Andy Varejao, but he's done for the year. The other one is Brendan Haywood. And the only reason he's on the roster is because he has a very attractive tradable contract next summer. $10 million non-guaranteed. That's the only reason he's there. So you sort of have 2 lost roster spots, and then you have Mozgov and Perkins. And like today, Kyrie Irving is doubtful for tonight's game because he hurt his shoulder last night, and they're probably going to have to start Matthew Dellavedova. But if you look at the entire sphere, I think you're right. Things are opening up remarkably for the Cavs. There's injuries throughout the entire Eastern Conference. Bosh, Paul George, Derrick Rose. The teams that they're going to have to potentially play for the title are teams that haven't done it before. It's not like you're going to have to face a Heat team that's the 4-time Eastern Conference champs, in the conference finals. It's not like you're going to have to face a 3- or 4-time champion trying to repeat. It's going to be a struggle for the Spurs just to get there. You're looking at potentially, playing the Hawks who've never done it before, the Grizzlies who've never done it before, the Warriors who've never done it before, something like that. It's opening up for the Cavs to take it. We're probably going to have a new champion this year, somebody who hasn't done it before. That's the way it's setting up. And that's what you want to be. You don't want to have to face a team that's been there and done that. And so I think the lay of the land for the Cavs is making this a great opportunity to get this done this year.
Who's your MVP?
My vote today would be James Harden. I think what he's done, and with what the challenges they've had down there. The thing about it is, though, Colin, historically, you go back 25 years, the team that has won, the guy who's won the MVP, his team has averaged 61 wins. It's almost always a team award as much as it is a player award. One of the reasons why Kobe only has one MVP is because when he was in his absolute prime, with those 3 years after Shaq left, and his teams were winning in the low 40s. The one year they didn't make the playoffs, one year they were knocked out in the first round. It's hard to win it if your team isn't way up there. It's kind of like the Oscars. You don't see the guy who takes the best picture. It's not the first time he's been on stage. Usually he's been up there for best actor or best director or best screenplay. And that's why I think Steph Curry is the favorite for most people, because the Warriors have been far and away the best team.
Brian Windhorst going a little Cali on us there with some Oscar stories. Good talking to you, bud.
All right, Colin, have a great weekend.
You're in the Herd, the Thundering Herd podcast.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd podcast.
Years ago, a friend of mine told a story. The economy was humming like 15, 20 years ago. I think Clinton was president, and the dot-com age, it exploded, and the unemployment was like 3%. And a friend of mine told me a story in Seattle. He said that Boeing was trying to hire Boeing was trying to hire a half dozen people. And basically, what you would do is you would go into their manufacturing plant and at Boeing Airfield in Seattle, right off the freeway, I-5, and you would ride a bicycle from one end to the other to take parts. It wasn't a high-paying job, but the economy in Seattle at the time was so good. It's a very educated city, high-tech, and companies were springing up. Virtually anybody that could have a job, that was capable of holding down a job, had a job. And the economy at the time was, it later imploded, but the economy at the time was huge. And my friend who's in finance said the story was well documented at Boeing, that they interviewed 542 people. All you had to do, basically, could you ride a bike and pass a drug test? 542 people, 11 passed the test. Is that you get to a point when the economy is so good in certain areas, everybody that could be employed is kind of employed. Nebraska's got like almost no unemployment. Salt Lake, almost no unemployment. I was just telling the guys, it's really funny that we mentioned, you guys agreed with me, in the last 3 or 4 months where I live, the economy's really good, okay? And it's picked up and the numbers all say it's good. And I noticed it really, really the last 2 weekends, but so bad last Friday night into Saturday that I told my wife, I said, what's happening in the economy now is in our little slice of life, anybody that could have been hired has been hired. And they've been promoted because business is now growing. And so the good workers at a Starbucks, they've been promoted. Now Starbucks or any other company now has to hire people because of the growth that they normally probably wouldn't want to hire, but they've got slots to fill. The quality of some retail situations I've been in the last 6 months, 6 weeks, and I went to you guys, and I'm like, it's been like startling. And it's like, that tells me the economy's back. The economy is now flush. Good workers get elevated. They get promoted. Companies now are growing because the economy's good, and they're hiring people that are either really young, don't have a work history, have struggled chronically to maintain a work history. And I said it to you, John. You had a situation. I won't mention the company. Vince had 2. You are at the same company. I had a different one. Stanzik, hands up if you've seen this. Now, the economy's not equal. It's greater in some places than other places. And I'm sure there's some liberal blog that will be outraged by this, saying that not every worker's grand. But I have noticed it before. I remember the Boeing story. I've noticed it recently. It is a sign that right now in this moment, the economy is robust. The workers at these companies are being elevated. They're being promoted because the company's growing, and they're like, all right, let's take the barista and make him a manager. Let's take the manager and make him an executive manager. Wherever it is, then you got to hire more people who are often too young, too inexperienced. And it's like in retail, man, I've noticed it in my little slice of the world. Now, Stanzik never leaves his house, so he's too busy watching Blue Jays spring training games. That's probably your excuse why you have not seen it. Or maybe you understand America. You have more empathy than that.
I think it's an interesting theory. I don't know if we can go with it as verifiable fact.
No, and by the way, this show, sometimes we just talk about stuff. It's just something I've noticed. And last weekend, it kind of hit an apex. I told my wife we had like 3 straight, and I'm like, wow. Like, what's going on here? This is we work in a town where people are competent, and I'm like, what is going on here? Maybe it's a lunar moon or something. I don't know. You're spoiled. I'm sure there's a...
What do they, make the bed too tight at that 5-star hotel?
Let some liberal blog get upset with it. Deal with it. My 500 thread counts were down to 300. I said, Joseph, get rid of the help. No, I think I'm right on this. I think it happens in our economy, and the economy right now is very, very good. Very good. So Adrian Peterson he's going to be back in this league. Okay, and it bothers people. What he did to his child bothers me. Adam Schefter talked about this. There's a market for Adrian Peterson. It is a strong market. A district court says, NFL, sorry, he's got to be able to play. And here's Adam Schefter on that.
It's a situation here where the two sides clearly are going to have work to do to mend that relationship if it can be mended. And again, there are certain people within the Vikings organization that would like to bring him back to Minnesota, but it is far from a foregone conclusion that he will return to Minnesota. And the ruling today means that the Vikings will have to make that decision sooner rather than later, whatever that decision is, whether to bring him back, part ways, trade him, release him, restructure the contract, whatever they want, that decision now will have to be made here in very short order.
And there is a market for him. He is going to find a place to work. Listen, culturally, our states disagree on punishment for a child. What he did makes me sick to my stomach. But our country has 4 or 5 regions, and each one has a different sensibility to a lot of things. You know, the South is more relaxed, more religious. It's got a big military presence. It's very chill. The Northeast is intense and academic and competitive, and there's population density, and there's a rat race. Small states, lots of people. It's amazing we live in a country that has West Hollywood and Alabama. The West Coast is more recreational, more mountains, a lot of beach, more space, bigger states, fewer people, less manufacturing, more entrepreneurial, more recreational. Our regions are different. They think differently on religion and vaccines and corporal punishment, death penalty. What he did bothers me terribly. But in a Texas court and in a Minnesota court, they can see it differently. So, like what he did is despicable to me. It's gross, and I can't get past it. And I had a personal situation where I've dealt with him before, and he kind of gives me the creeps. But all right, Dan, you're in the herd. We got a minute. Am I nuts with my theory on the economy?
You are not. You are dead on. I own 3 fast food restaurants in the Midwest here, and you're dead on. I moved up my good workers, and I've had to slim pickings to replace them guys. So I want to tell you, you're dead on.
See? I'm not trying to be but you can notice stuff. If you keep your eyes open, you can see it. The kid at the food court is now a manager at the food court, and the manager at the food court is now maybe a priority manager in sales, and you've had to go again and hire. And I think
are we nitpicking fast food workers right now? Like they're not Harvard grads here.
I'm saying retail in general. You could go to Lowe's, you go to Home Depot, I'm talking anywhere. You go to Starbucks, you go to any retail. Hell, look at our country. It's like 70% retail businesses. I'm saying you can notice it. It tells me the economy's good. I'm not picking on anybody. Just be a little faster with my latte. It's the herd.
Technology gone bad. Gone bad. This is the
Mark Cuban, smart guy, comes on the show. He's a tech whiz, right? So there's this whole net neutrality thing, and it's really complicated. But I'm going to break it down in a minute here. And he said a very interesting thing yesterday. He was on Squawk Alley on CNBC. I think it's in the NBC family. It's their financial arm, Ron and Son is on that thing. And he starts talking about it, and I'll break this down for about a minute. He goes, let's just take it all the way through its logical conclusion. All bits are equal, right? If all bits are equal, then let's look at what a stream bit is as an example. So I can do this interview with Henry, and CNBC's on Comcast, camera right in front of us. They go through a switcher. They go through an encoder. It's put through a server. It goes to Comcast. and it's streamed in a managed service environment to television. It's the exact same thing. And if it's the exact same thing about technology and all bits are equal, then why shouldn't CNBC and the TV networks that are delivered on cable and telco and fiber like Verizon, why shouldn't they be part of the open internet as well? So the FCC now has to apply their same standards to content on the internet, don't they? That they do to television. Because all bits are equal, right? All content is delivered over the internet because all bits are bits, and it's fair and it's open and it's equal internet. Decency standards. So what he's basically saying is the internet, if you're going to have the FCC now ruling television, you can't have this, you can't have that, and the internet's going to have the same standards, that's the end of the world. It's going to change everything. My argument is it really the worst thing to raise the standards for the internet? If you raise the standards on the internet to the television current level, what would you lose? A lot of porn, some unsightly violence, and time wasters. That's what you'd pretty much lose on the internet. You wouldn't lose valuable stuff. You could still go to Yahoo and ESPN and all Mark Cuban's companies. You'd lose a lot of porn. You'd lose some porns, maybe some, a lot of violence. You'd lose stuff. By the way, YouTube already cleanses its site. The legitimate businesses that have some unseemly audio or video, like YouTube, they take it off. They have to monitor. You lose some ISIS beheadings, like I need to see that. Some suicide attempts, like I need to see that. YouTube came out with a kids version on Monday. We've already got regulations everywhere. If the internet had to clean its act up, what would you lose of value?
All right, what about historical things like Holocaust photos? Okay. What would you do with those, Mao?
Okay. First of all, it's a very good point. You create, however you want to create this, through committee, through the legislation. There are historical exceptions to graphic images. Teaching opportunities, the Holocaust for one. Yes, by the way, what is art? What is porn? As the Supreme Court said, I don't know it, but I know it when I see it. I can't describe it.
Right. I think that's kind of our point, is that it's a slippery slope, and we don't know where you, Mr. Vlad the Impaler, in there, where you're going to draw the line.
You guys are ridiculous. First of all, we've got an FDA. We've got an SEC. We've got an FCC. We've got regulation everywhere. I own some wine stores. You can do this in New York. It's the wild, wild west. You can't do this in Massachusetts. You can do anything in Rhode Island. You can do nothing in Utah. They have dry counties in Kentucky. They got wet counties in Oregon.
Right. Everyone can't agree. So how are we going to agree with someone regulating the internet? Why don't you just have a free internet? Whoever wants to go find whatever they want to find, they can find it. And people that don't want to find it, don't find it.
How about...
How hard is that, Kaiser Wilhelm?
Listen, you guys are jerks, is what you are. You're marginalizing me, demonizing the voice of a generation here.
Yeah, we got plenty more, but according to you, I can't find any more on the internet because you wouldn't let me.
Listen, let me guess. It's the fear mongers. I always hear this.
Honestly, I don't think you're hearing Cuban correctly. If you go further, he says, remember, the FCC is the same agency that fought the Janet Jackson thing for 8 years.
Okay, Matthew,
so he's mocking it.
Well, I've mocked the FCC on more than one occasion. And the Nipplegate was just a bunch of Christian conservatives going wacky. There was about 8 of them. They later found out there were very few complaints about it because most of us couldn't see it. I'm 50.
Right, and you want them regulating the internet.
I need nipples right in front of me. I can't see that thing 60 yards away. I'm an old man.
Good for you, Genghis Khan.
Matthew, go ahead. You're in the herd.
Oh, thanks for taking my call, Colin. A big part of it has to do with the government control of the internet and the way that they've been surveilling us. And with the Snowden revelations, the government pretty much lies to us constantly. I wouldn't trust it to regulate the content that we have on the internet. And like Stanzik just said, it has to do with history. They could totally limit the history that we take in, which they already try to do.
Our government limits how fast we can drive, what we can eat, the drugs we can take. They're already doing that. I go to the pharmacy, it has to be regulated. I go watch television, it's regulated. My grocery store is. It's just... everybody wants to live in this unregulated libertarian society, but you can't. It doesn't work. By the way, look at the world's governments. Whose is in better shape than ours? There's a reason the world's wealth is pouring into our stock market, because nobody can trust their president. Russian money's pouring into New York City. Why? Because nobody can trust Putin. Our money's not pouring into Russia. People are swimming here from islands. You can compare us globally. When you consider geographically where we're at, when you consider the number of people here, compare our government to what's out there. Look at where the world's wealthy are pouring their money now, into our country. They don't trust their governments. The people from Russia trust our government more than their government. And yes, there's surveillance. There's a drone over my head probably 24 hours a day.
I'm just surprised of all people, you're the one that's like crying to protect children and regulate this and regulate that. Aren't we supposed to learn messages from all this bad stuff?
Dude, we don't need violent images for 7-year-olds. Can we wait till they're 11? Can we scale back a little? E-O. How are you? Go ahead.
Yes. I wanted to say, what is the upside to shutting down, regulating the Internet? And the other thing is dismissing porn. That's not a small thing. It's a multi-billion-dollar business, and most of your demographic probably consume it.
Well, that's congratulations on that. Just because something makes a lot of money doesn't mean it's not replaceable. I mean, like pornography doesn't drive our economy. It drives a large percentage of the Internet. Okie dokie. And if we took it away, you'd have to spend less time watching porn and society would be fine. I'm not anti-porn, guy. I mean, I'm really not. I'm not. But the idea that you can't scale it back or you have to now pay for it and it's not free and it's not images, that's not a terrible thing.
Right. I don't think anyone disputes that. It's just no one can agree on where to draw the line, so why don't you just not draw a line at all?
How about Uncle Ronaldo draws the line?
Yeah, because America trusts you.
Yeah,
okay.
Good. Yeah. Who do you trust?
You're Mr. Pol Pot in there looking for regulations. You want to be the dictator. Okay.
You know what? I'm a dictator on this show. You work tomorrow. $15 a day. Or gone. I like it. I like that role. It's power.
Putting style in black T-shirts.
It's Colin Cowherd, the Thundering Herd Podcast.
And by the way, I know this is really about changing speeds on the Internet to allow certain information through and other information not. That's largely what net neutrality is about. But there is, if the FCC is controlling the Internet, you're going to get down to a decency standard issue, which is more interesting to me and easier to explain to the audience. And, you know, what's interesting about the Internet is that you can buy a TV, but you can't create content that gets on a TV station. The FCC gives licenses out to only certain numbers of people. You can buy a radio, but you can't create content that gets on the radio. That's why they ban pirate radio stations. But you can buy a computer and create Internet content that my kids can see. And so this idea that it's just anybody can put anything and you only see it if you're looking for it. Well, the problem is 12-year-old kids do go looking for it, and I can't stare at my daughter all day long. Nobody can monitor their kids all day long. You have jobs. They're home for 10 minutes. They have friends. And by the way, now that the phone is the Internet, they can, if they have a phone, and you know, we give our daughter a phone so if she gets in trouble, she can call home. Now she can go to the Internet, because what's happening now is the Internet's becoming the TV. It's becoming everything. So if you give your kids a phone by 15, 16 years old, they've got access to everything. I'm not at school with them.
Yeah, but aren't you Mr. Don't Regulate Morality? Aren't you trying to regulate morality?
It's not about regulating morality. It's about regulating certain views to children. I don't care about me as an adult. I find this stuff gross. I stay away. But kids' brains aren't developed. It's like pot. I'm pro-legalizing marijuana, not to 18-year-old kids.
But that doesn't mean 16-year-olds are going to stop looking for it and they'll find it. So
I'd like to make
don't
it
you
tougher.
take that as a teaching moment? Don't you say this all the time? Use that as a teaching moment.
Yes, there are limitations. I don't want to have to spend my entire day fighting off images and teaching. I'd like to just sit down and have
But if the kids are looking
popcorn.
for them, then have a teaching moment after it happens.
But here's a problem. A lot of times they see it and don't tell me. Because you can't now. The Internet now is everywhere.
Right, I'm sure they're going to drink and not tell you, too.
Not my kids. So the universe has been so good to me lately. Like, I grew up in a part of the country where teams were awful. Seattle. They were just awful. The baseball team sucked. Football team, everybody was awful. I got beat up for years. It hurt my self-esteem. But, man, am I on a run. I got the Patriots. I got the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. My baseball team, the Mariners, is picked to win like 88 games. I think the Blazers could get to the Western Conference Final. The Pac-12 is up. And now LeBron James has got this team together. Last night, there was this big game. Golden State goes to Cleveland. And, you know, they call Klay Thompson and Steph Curry the Splash Brothers because they shoot a lot of big jumpers. Yeah, splashy brothers. Yeah, and they met A little old tsunami in LeBron.
Gambler shooting 40%. LeBron picks it away from Lee. Cruises the other way. Scrolls to the glass. Just like that.
Yeah.
LeBron James.
Splashy, 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 splashy. Yeah, how about a big vat of water?
Back to LeBron, wing right, working on Green with his back to the bucket. Gives him that right shoulder. Rocks him a little bit, gets him off his position. Lefty from 10 feet. LeBron James has 42, a season high. What a move that was.
Dub-a-dub-dub, two little shooters in the tub. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry got a splashy, splashy. Yeah. Yeah, look, here, LeBron. LeBron works at a different level when it comes to splashing. Yeah, that's cute. Scram, kids. All you Warrior fans. Man, we outplayed him. It was at the free throw line. Yeah, that's the problem with Golden State. They've got no size. This is going to happen to Golden State in the playoffs this year, so Warrior fans, figure it out. You're not going to get a lot of free throws because you shoot jumpers. When you live and die shooting jumpers and you don't create physicality and contact at the rim, which you don't because you're small, that's my knock on Golden State. Chicago can shoot free throws because they push the ball down low. I thought the Miami Heat last year became 2 3-point dominant. They did not have a center. Overtime, it cost them. You have to shoot well. So Warrior fans this morning are bitching and complaining about this. We didn't get the free throws. You don't create them because you shoot jumpers. And when you rely on fall-away threes, you don't get to the free throw line. And Cleveland now has bigs. Tristan Thompson, Mozgov, LeBron can work inside. Kendrick Perkins will work into the rotation. Oh, the refs. When you don't go inside, you don't get free throws. It's been my knock on Golden State the last year. They've got no size. That's why I don't think they get out of the West. They don't have any size. I think Portland with Lopez and LaMarcus Aldridge, but Lopez, go look at Portland's record when Lopez plays. This argument is every year we don't get to the line. You got to create contact to get to the free throw line. Wayne, you're in the herd.
Hi, Colin. I was wondering if you watched the game last night because Steve Kerr was off the bench because they were getting packed. Damon Green would try to go through the lane, and they were holding him every single time. And on the LeBron thing, LeBron just runs in the middle of the lane and causes fouls the entire time. It's like the NBA doesn't know how to call the fouls.
Oh, yeah. They're just all these incompetent people. When you have a bunch of gunners, you don't get to the line. Sorry. And by the way, if the NBA is so pro-LeBron, why did he lose 2 of the 4 finals in Miami? Because he became too reliant on a perimeter game. His first year against Dallas, he wouldn't go low. Oh, here's another. Here we go. Here's another one. A little splishy splashy. Go ahead, Rick. You're in the herd.
Yeah, Colin, thanks for the call. I just wondered if there's a team that you really follow and cheer for, because it seems like you jump from team to team to team. I'm a Chicago fan and always have been a Chicago fan. Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs.
You're a fan. I'm not.
Bears.
You're a fan. I'm not. Fan short for fanatic. Not my job to be a fanatic. That's your job. I think it's awesome. You are. I call them as I see them. I'm not a fan. If you went to trial, would you want the judge to be a fan of either side, or do you want him to be impartial? If you want to listen to your local guy, root for your local team, that's awesome. And I think it's awesome that you're a fan.
I don't mean it in a bad way.
No, I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan. I think Brady's great. I enjoy interesting. I enjoy great. But I'm not loyal to anybody. I think Tom Brady is the best quarterback in my life, and I love the NFL, so Brady I think is great. But he's got flaws. He's not mobile. I don't think he throws the great deep ball anymore. I think he's tremendous at the line of scrimmage. But your job's to be a fan. Go for it. Spend money. Go nuts. Go crazy. Go call my show. I see myself more as a judge. 2 arguments, 2 attorneys, prosecutor, defense attorney. My job is to say, today I like that argument. But tomorrow I may like your argument. Today I like the other guy's argument. I don't wear jerseys. That's what you do. I think it's awesome. You pay for tickets. I don't. I think it's awesome. You root. Paint your face. I think it's awesome. I just hold a gavel. Bang. Last night, hey, splashy, splashy, we shoot jumpers. Yeah, my guy doesn't shoot jumpers. He's Captain Tsunami down the lane. ESPN Radio presented by Progressive Insurance. Call or click today. You can save a lot of money, up to $500 a month. So I've been marginalized as Stalin. Yeah, I mean, today's show is fun, right? 2 hours in, and I'm running a communist country because I am concerned about images to our youth. Somebody's got to be responsible. So you cleaned up the bottom 8% of the internet. Yeah, it ruined everything. Let's clean it up a little bit, yeah. I mean, you've seen these. Somebody writes a beautiful newspaper article, and you see the comments afterwards. Oh, interesting. By the third email, it's vulgar and vile and gross, and there you go. There's.
You don't have to read those comments.
No, but they're still out there for people to read.
Colin Cowherd.
The Thundering Herd Podcast.
So, you know, this is weird. I'll probably get in trouble for this. So all you blogs who are bored on a Friday, why don't I just give you some more clicks? I don't like watching Ronda Rousey fight. I struggle watching women beat on each other. I really do. I'm sexist in the name of chivalry. I really struggle with it. I don't like watching women beat on each other. I don't know why. I'm more comfortable now than I was when Layla Ali boxed years ago, but I just struggle watching it. Now, I would really struggle. I don't like watching any dominant person beat a less dominant person. It has a pit bull against a beach ball. So when you have equal talent, I'm more okay with it. Like two formidable combatants. I wouldn't want to see a really, you know, like in high school if somebody got into a fight, I didn't love that either. But if it was two guys who are capable and they're both 6'3", 220, then it's even, then it's fair. I don't like to see imbalance in any fighting. That's why you have weight classes in boxing. I don't want to see Mike Tyson in his prime against a featherweight from, you know, Korea. That's just not, I don't think that doesn't do a thing for me. But there is something about women fighting. It doesn't quite feel right to me. I just don't enjoy watching it. What does that make me? I mean, women listening to the show right now, do you think less of me because I'm saying that? I'll probably get suspended for saying it. You know what? I could use next Monday off. I'm exhausted. Ronda Rousey's a great athlete. I'm for her commerce. I'm for her. But I don't like watching women fight as much as men. There's something deep in my core. I don't know. When you're told your whole life, no violence, don't hit women, don't hit women, don't hit women. Oh, they're fighting in the street. This is great. I struggle with it. I don't know. I struggle with it. What does it say about me?
I'm going to let you fight this personal battle yourself.
I don't know. I'm just being honest with the audience. I'm just vomiting here on the air. I
think it is slightly sexist because if men can fight and get paid for it, why can't women?
They can. They are. I'm not saying. But I'm telling you.
Right. Does your personal view, does that make you sexist? That you enjoy watching men fight, but you don't enjoy watching women fight?
I don't even enjoy watching most men fight.
You've been talking about the art of boxing and how great it is and football. You love when guys fight.
I was in Vegas watching Tyson fights. I don't want to work in Midland watching, Manny Militia against Bobby Brainless fighting at some, local
but what happened
gym.
if Bob and Dennis are fighting in the break room? We'd all run to watch, right?
There is some emotional interest in that. Yeah, briefly. Yeah, they're fighting.
What if it's Jennifer and Elizabeth going at it in the break room?
I don't like watching that. I would ask them both nicely to stop and stop with that nonsense. I don't know listen, I'm just telling you how I feel here. You're speaking of names. All right, the list of the world's sexiest names. So these, according to the survey, these are the sexiest names. Mateo. Dimitri. I'm Dimitri. I'm going to make love to you. Dante. Lorenzo. Yeah, Lorenzo's always a hunk. Women, it's Scarlett, Paulina, Chanel, Adriana. They don't have Dakota. There's no. I've never met a Dakota that was not attractive, and I only know one Charlize, but she's attractive. Okay, these are the least sexy names. These are the least sexy names. Bob, Ernest, Dick, Howard, Norman, Bertha, Mildred, Ethel, Gertrude. Oh, that'd be rough. Gertrude's rough. I'm not going to lie to you. Gertrude is rough.
Speaking of rough, we were talking earlier. Vince said he loves the name Heidi.
Heidi sounds like a woman with a beer mug in Austria to me.
Yeah, I think very chesty, but not exactly that attractive.
What was the other name this morning?
Katie. Super cute. All of us immediately were like, Katie's so cute.
Yeah, and every Katie is cute and a very good volleyball player. Ponytail, good in sports. How many guys do you know? My name is Dante. I'm going to make love to somebody tonight, and everybody will enjoy it. My name is Dante. That's not even fair. Hey, I'm Colin. I'm British. My nose is pointy. I'm Dante. Look at me walking my leather pants. I'm Dante. All right, hold on. Here's somebody. I don't like something about women fighting. It's rough for me. Alan, you're in the herd. Go ahead.
Hey, Colin. Thanks for taking my call. So my fiance is an ex-MMA fighter, and I've seen a lot of women fights, and I agree with you. If it's mismatched or the women aren't highly trained, then it does something. It kind of makes you kind of squeamish. But with Ronda Rousey and Kat Zingano, those women are super highly trained. They're super technical, and they're tough. I mean, I know that you're not really involved with MMA, but if you've ever been kicked by a 135-pound girl, it hurts.
Yeah,
I'm 6'3", 240.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt Ronda Rousey could throw me around like a crouton in a salad bowl. I don't really deny that. I just listen. I don't know. There is something. There is just, it's just. I guess I'm old school on that. I don't want to see women fight. Guys are knuckleheads, so hopefully they'll thin the herd. Tim, you're in the herd. Go ahead.
Colin, Heidi is an exotic name. Very blonde, tall Norwegian woman. She wants to take me to the top of the Matterhorn. Heidi's unbelievable. And I've never met an ugly Heather.
Yeah, that is true with Heather. So you like Heidi, Tim?
Heidi's unbelievable. Exotic.
Takes you to the top.
Northern European exotic.
This show's kind of unraveling here. We probably should move on. These topics are doing my career no good. Biersteins, Heidi, Katie, Gertrude. My name is Dante. I just make love for a living. That's what I do in leather pants. I just walk around malls and food courts in leather pants. Anybody want to be with me? I'm Heidi. Here's a schnitzel and some lederhosen. Heidi is, to me, there's a beer mug involved. It's Austria. There's a pith hat. I don't know, just...
Yeah, braided pigtails, for sure.
It is. It does seem striking, though. She's formidable.
I think I'm intimidated by Heidi.
Yeah, so am I. At least after this conversation. That whole Matterhorn thing threw me for a loop. See, here's a guy that Mark from Atlanta says he struggles to watch. He thinks that UFC women's unsettling. It is a little bit to me. It's a little unsettling. But you called me a sexist on my own show, so I do appreciate that. I really do. I enjoy being demonized on my own show.
You know what I think it might be? It might be the violence against the woman, even if it's coming from another woman.
It bothers me. It does bother. I think I've been numbed by war footage of men fighting through the years. Men have been in so many violent activities. I'm numbed.
Probably why you want to regulate the internet.
It is. I'm telling you right now. I don't think people would like me as much as if I ruled the world. I could be a very strict father.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast.